Welcome to Muslim Apologetics Australia. In this video, we're going to discuss the sanctions that have been passed in the US government, in a kangaroo court they call it, against the ICC, which is the International Criminal Court of Justice. And so in this Criminal Court of Justice, arrest warrants was made against two figures in Israel. One is Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant. These two individuals compromised in sending war crimes and committing war crimes against the Palestinian people. And this has been documented by the International Criminal Court. It's documented by Amnesty International and other humanitarian networks. And so these two individuals were called by the ICC, International Criminal Court of Justice, so they can serve a court proceeding to prove whether they are guilty. And of course, the US government has objected to this. Netanyahu has said how this is anti-Semitic, this is anti-Semitism, this is hate, this is ludicrous. And so the US has passed a law to sanction a criminal court, which is a coalition of European nation, which actually includes countries like Germany, like France. See it all here: United Kingdom, Switzerland, Norway, Portugal, Netherlands, Italy, Greece, Ireland, Denmark, Canada, Australia, and you can see it all, right? Now, despite it being legitimized by most of the European nations, you see how the US government has put sanctions on the ICC because they know Benjamin Netanyahu and his colleague is up for war crimes, and there is legitimate prosecution against them. Now, it's unbelievable when you have a look at their answers to why they believe they should sanction the International Criminal Court. They say they have biases, they have racism. If you go through their court processes, most of the countries they target are African countries and so forth. But there's probably a reason why they target a lot of African countries, because it's harder to go after Western superpowers, because most of the time first world countries are protected by the military and a lot of the media networks and so forth. It's a lot harder to prosecute. It's a lot harder to bring them to justice because they're protected. And you see exactly this scenario, what's happening with Benjamin Netanyahu. The ICC has issued an arrest warrant, but they can't go out and arrest this person because they're backed by the military. They're backed by the powers of the US. It's like trying to go and arrest Putin. You can't, because you're going to have to go to war against Putin in order to arrest him. Or you need Ukraine to actually beat Russia and then arrest Putin, and that way they can transfer him to the ICC, International Criminal Court. And that is the reason why it's probably easier to target some of those African countries, because they don't have the backing that, for instance, Israel has with US, or how Russia has so much backing because they've got nuclear warheads and so forth. So this claim of racism, that doesn't really hold up. Secondly, they made a claim that they can't be trusted, and this was a blatant lie. This is a total blatant lie. And their argument was, well, when the ICC issued arrest warrants for Hamas leaders such as Ismail Haniyeh and Yahya Sinwar, that these, and for example, Mohammed Dib, Ibrahim al-Mazri, they're saying that, these people were already killed, and that it was just comical that arrest warrants were issued when they already knew that these people died. However, this is a lie. This is a blatant lie. And if you go to the International Criminal Court and you read their paper, you can see arrest warrants were already issued before their deaths. So it reads from here, the prosecution had initially filed application for warrants of arrest for 2 other senior leaders of Hamas. So obviously they did not know that Ismail Haniyeh or Yahya Sinwar died, or there was no information at this time. They already put arrest warrants out following confirmation of deaths. Now, following confirmation of their deaths, the chamber granted the withdrawal of the application on 9th August 2024 and 25th October 2024. In other words, if these 2 individuals did not die, then the application would not have been withdrawn and their arrest warrants would have still stood. But the Israelis try and put a spin that this application was made knowing that they already died, which is an absolute lie. So basically they're trying to make lies and criticize the ICC, saying there's a double standard, there's a hypocrisy, they're going after Netanyahu and so forth. But at the same time, they didn't really go after Hamas leaders, and that when they did go after Hamas leaders, they were already dead anyway. This is a lie. And we know that this is a lie because Mr. Dave, it's not proven yet that he's dead, and arrest warrants have still been issued to him. Now, if he is killed, and we know that he is killed, then obviously the application will be withdrawn. So similar things happen to Yahya Sinwar. You got to understand that Israel is continuously bombarding those areas, and so much bombs and debris are falling and buildings are falling that sometimes it takes months before they dig up the bodies and find out who these individuals are. Okay, so to claim that, the ICC was sending these applications after their death for their arrest warrants is completely nonsense and completely not true. The next double standard is, I'm just going to give you a hypothetical example, Let's just imagine that Israel and the United States joined with some European nations and they created their own international court of justice. Okay? And suppose that these countries had judges and then they started putting arrest warrants out to some Muslim leaders. Suppose the Iranian leader Ayatollah or something like that, right? And they said that he is responsible for committing war crimes by supporting October 7th, whatever it is, right? Suppose they did that. Now, would it then be fair now to say, all Muslim nations should sanction this new International Criminal Court of Justice set up by Israel and America and its European nations because they are sending arrest warrants for the Iranian leader Ayatollah Khomeini. However, they did not send arrest warrants for Tony Blair and George W. Bush because, these folks have committed war crimes against the Iraqi people over fake weapons of mass destruction that did not exist, and so they went out and committed war crimes. So can we now therefore accept that these Muslim nations can now justifiably sanction this court for biases? Now, if you say they can, but we know you won't say they can, we know that you'll never accept that. You'll never accept the fact that these Israeli and US governments are biased. You'll never side with the Muslim leaders and the Muslim nations for calling this hypocrisy and biases. You'd never ever do that now, would you? Would you ever now undermine this International Criminal Court? Would you say it's unfair? Would you side with the Muslims? No, you won't. So then I ask, why the double standards? Why then do you side with Israel and America because you believe, there wasn't this fairness, they don't prosecute this leader or that leader or this leader. Only when it comes to Netanyahu they do it. Why then do you side with America and Israel? Clearly it's because you are biased yourself. And had the shoe been on the other foot, you would never be on the side of the Muslims and the Muslims. Had the Muslims said the same thing and said, well, we're going to sanction your criminal court because, you're going after an Iranian leader, however, you haven't gone after Tony Blair and George W. Bush. And let's not forget, folks, the United States of America, when it came to the ICC sending arrest warrants to prosecute Vladimir Putin over its war crimes against Ukraine, the United States actually supported the ICC, the International Criminal Court. But when it comes to Benjamin Netanyahu, there's no support there. So again, why the double standards? So as you can see, you can read it here. It says, today, 17th March 2023, the International Court issued a warrant of arrest for two individuals in the context of situation in Ukraine, Mr. Vladimir Putin and Miss Maria Alkasovsky. So as you can see, these two people were issued an arrest warrant by the ICC judges. And you can see it says Putin arrest warrant. Biden welcomes ICC's war crimes charges. This is by the BBC News. So you see, America has no problem. US President Joe Biden has welcomed the International Criminal Court issuing of an arrest warrant against his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin. So, why the double standards? So, against Putin, the US administration welcomes these warrant charges, but when it comes to Benjamin Netanyahu, they put sanctions against the ICC. And the next argument is, for example, the other claim that they make is those who criticize the ICC. They say things like, but the US or Israel is not really a member of the ICC. They haven't really signed it and things like that. And it's like, to me, that's all ludicrous, because imagine we said Adolf Hitler wasn't a member of the ICC. Does that mean that it is exempted from appearing at the International Criminal Court. Putin is also not part of the ICC, but no one objected for the ICC going after Putin. Now, did they? So what these people are basically saying is Osama bin Laden needs to sign the ICC if he was alive and they were still looking for him. Apparently, we can't really charge Osama bin Laden for war crimes because he didn't really sign he's not part of the international, he didn't sign it. Come on, seriously. I mean, look at all of these excuses, these lame excuses. I mean, all these excuses to justify, to protect a genocidal maniac like Benjamin Netanyahu. You know why? Because those people in the background who were defending Netanyahu and the US, they themselves are complicit in calling for the genocide of the Palestinian people. That's why they're defending their Hitler. It's like the Germans defending their Hitler. That's exactly what it is. So, folks, let's end it with this. If Netanyahu and Israel have got such a strong defense, this would be the best opportunity for them to come to the criminal court and disprove all of the findings made against them, and this would shut all the mouths of those accusing Israel of war crimes, right? It's very easy. Just come to the criminal court, prove your innocence, right? And that's it. You can continue your bloodshed against the Palestinian people and you can keep going and doing what you're doing, right? And then all of these, you'll have the whole world behind you. You'll say, look, I went to the Criminal Court of Justice. I proved my innocence. See, there was no war crimes committed, right? And you'll literally have the globe with you, right? Not against you. You'll have them with you. This is the perfect opportunity to prove your innocence and shut up all the criticism. But there is a reason why you're not going. Despite having the best lawyers in the world, despite having the best, IDF comes out continuously defending all the allegations of war crimes. The IDF comes out so many times producing hundreds of videos daily protecting Israel's integrity. I mean, if it was such great work, if you had all the evidence to prove that you're not a war criminal, then why aren't you coming to the International Court of Justice? Why aren't you coming to the International Criminal Court? The fact that you're running away, proves that you're hiding something, that you have a guilty conscience. I mean, just imagine for a moment, imagine the uproar if President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, suppose he committed war crimes against the Kurdish people and the ICC put an arrest warrant for President Erdogan, and then Erdogan turned around and said, I'm going to sanction the ICC. What would you say against President Erdogan? You'd say he's running. You'd say he's hiding from the truth. You'd say he's a war criminal and this is evidence that he's a war criminal because he's not facing the ICC, the International Criminal Court of Justice. He's not facing it and he's running away from it. That's exactly what you'd do if it was President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, wouldn't you? But when it comes to Netanyahu, he's innocent, the ICC is biased. Unbelievable. Your double standards are sickening.